תודה רבה. שלום לכולם. קוראים לי אלי, אני סמנכ"ל השיווק והמכירות של חברת SIT, לא אוסית. אנחנו עובדים בשיתוף פעולה עם חברת קרימזון הקסגון. דיברו פה הרבה על דאטה, וכמה חשוב להשתמש בו וכמה צ'לנג'ינג יש בעבודה עם דאטה. ואחד הקשרים שקרימזון הקסגון, שאנחנו שותפים שלה, יכולה לפתור, זה את הקשר לסושיאל דאטה. להיות מסוגל להאזין לרשתות החברתיות ולעשות משם אנליסיס על מנת להבין מה אומרים שם בחוץ. אז שאלו פה שאלה על סקרים, אני חושב שתקבלו תשובה מצוינת איך ארגונים יכולים לקבל מתוך הסושיאל דאטה המון תובנות במעט זמן. So I welcome Marian to tell you about Crimson Hexagon, our great partner.
Thank you very much, Eli. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very sorry that I'll be speaking in English, but unfortunately I know about 3 words of Hebrew, and they're not very useful in here. Thank you very much for joining us today. Crimson Hexagon is a company founded in Boston, and I am their representative in London for our strategic partners worldwide, and SIT is very much at the heart of that in Israel. Before I go any further on our company specifically, there's one thing that I wanted to bring to you from London, and it's this. I don't know if you remember it. It is the Tim Berners-Lee presentation during the London Olympics opening ceremony in 2012. We're about to have another Olympic game now, but I think this was a very poignant image, and it's one that I'd like to remind you and myself of very often, is that we sometimes forget the internet is there for everyone, and it's that gift that is not a commodity, that is not paid for, but that is open for the whole wide world. And social media within it, it's very often, it's vibrantly beating heart. It's the way we communicate now. It's all out there. It's all in the open as far as it's publicly available. And people have said it in their privacy settings as such. But I think it is vital to understand that what we're looking at here is society, it's humanity, it's your consumers, it's our brands, it's our communication in this glorious 21st century, and it's available to us all, and it's a magnificent thing that we at Crimson work with every day, all day, and we relish in it. Crimson Hexagon, for those that don't know us yet, we are a social media listening and analytics company. We do that and only that. We have that specific focus coming out of Harvard University back in 2007. And we are here and now selling the product around the world to educate brands, to educate consumers, NGOs, governments, or any academic researcher, any campaigner and marketeer about what is really going on out there with their brands, with their topics, and how they could learn not just about their brand, but about the whole context in which their company operates or their agency operates. We have clients around the world. About 60% of those are agencies at the moment, but we are making a move, and I'll tell about that later, into a new field, an exciting one. First of all, the quick sort of homework lesson is that for those of you that have worked with social media analytics before, there has been an evolution in that, as there has been in everything, of course. We all keep developing this. And where social media used to be based on keywords and on sentiment analysis of what those keywords could mean, and on lists made available to you by the companies that organize social listening, what we are looking at now is sort of the next generation machine learning algorithms, and Crimson has a patented version of that that comes out of Harvard University from back in the day, and that we really put at the disposal of our clients to perform very nuanced analyses in their language, for their context, for whatever is meaningful for them, rather than just working with positive, neutral, negative. We always say 60% positive, 40% negative is not the answer to anything that matters. You wouldn't accept it as the performance score for the school your children go to. You wouldn't accept it as the performance of your company, and you shouldn't accept it as a performance of your campaign or as an indication for product development. We can do so much better than that. A first iteration of that is that we will do automated nuance sentiment, so a far wider range of emotions than just positive and negative. But I think the most important key, the heart of Crimson Hexagon, is that algorithm that you as an analyst, you as a researcher, you as a marketeer can teach to recognize certain emotions, certain topics, certain trends that matter to you in your language. And so one example of that is this here. It's for Under Armour, a brand you may be aware of. It's very much there to try and identify, okay, you've got a lot of people talking about our brand, about our campaign, but how much of that is actually intent to purchase, how much of that affects my bottom line, how much of that is brand loyalty that I can count on for my campaigns again and again. And so this is an example of the type of data that comes out of Crimson Hexagon, and it's there not dictated by us as a company. This is users taking that algorithm, that system, and our data library into their own hands and finding exactly what it is they're looking for. This is another example. You may have known the Volkswagen scandal around the emissions a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, sorry. This is an analysis of how much this affected the intent to purchase Volkswagen cars. Again, it's not just hundreds of thousands of negative posts. We know the news was negative. That's not what you need a system for. You need a system to see, okay, how much of that negativity is going to last? How much of that negativity is going to impact my sales and my brand throughout the next few years? And that's what we can show you. But time moves on, and so where we have spent nearly 10 years now analyzing messages and words and language, and we're still very good at it, and it's still the heart of our work, we also recognize we live in a Snapchat generation, and we have to start making headway into image analytics. And so this year we have put the first iteration of image analytics into our platform, but it's something we keep developing, we keep pioneering into sort of the new versions of that, and it's something we're very excited about. Now, I am 31 years old, and therefore about a decade and a half too old for Snapchat, too old to get what Snapchat is. But we have sort of picked up on the fact that this is becoming quite big. And so we have picked up that from 2005 onwards, every year almost, there was a new medium that blew up, that gained hundreds of millions of users, and that was increasingly more and more based on images. Because images today, in 2016 and for the next few years, images are no longer illustration. Images are communication, and we should treat it as such, and we should try to understand what those images communicate. And so we see them being used for self-expression. We see them being used for content that people want to share about themselves, about their life. We see them as being driven by, of course, those smartphones, which we all have in our pockets, some of us multiple ones. And so we want to make sure that that bulk of volume that we get through, because Crimson always offers unlimited data, and so we see that now images are taking up a lot of our storage. We want to make sure that that bulk that we get through gets analyzed accordingly and gets made useful for our clients. And so the evolution we've gone through with language analytics, we are now replicating with image, and we're making the first steps into that, knowing we have much further to go. And so this is an example. You see a boy on a bicycle with his dog. That's a very commonly shared image. You could easily see that in your own Facebook feeds, on your Snapchat, on Instagram. It's not a problem. What can you now, as marketeers, take from that image? And the answer is quite a lot. Because today, we are able, in Crimson, are able to isolate the logo and show Nike this photo and a list of hundreds of thousands of other photos that feature their logo in a very authentic setting, in a context that matters to them and that tells them something about where their brand lives today. It doesn't just live on sports tracks. It doesn't just live in the Olympics. It doesn't just live amongst older teenagers that go to parties. It lives on the shirt of that boy on the bike with his dog. And then where we want to go, where we're going to take our platform, is then to also recognize the emotion on that boy's face, to recognize the activity, and to recognize his best friend in life, that dog. And we are also, of course, putting, again, that algorithm we have at the heart of this. We are able to then class those pictures within categories you as users use to make sense and to find meaning in those images. So beyond just recognizing the logo, beyond just recognizing the elements, you will be able to train those images to recognize them within certain categories and show at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, this is how many images really matter to us. We're really at the heart of our branding. And this is sort of the next generation outliers where we may want to start investigating whether this is really a critical mass and whether those are our consumers of tomorrow. The result of that looks like this. And so we see a difference already in the conversations around a certain brand when we analyze the language and the conversations around the brand when we analyze the image. You see different topics emerging, you see different people talking about it, and you see that a brand essentially gets a bit of a sort of a bipolar identity, and that somehow you need to keep track of both things. In terms of demographics, we also see differences there. So this is an analysis on Grey Goose vodka. And so you see the demographics at the bottom line, and above there you see affinities, which is Crimson Hexagon's way of analyzing lifestyles interests. People's active lifestyle interests declared by the things they talk about, but also the passive ones by the topics they follow. I talk a lot about Crimson Hexagon because I work there, but I follow a lot of accounts around economics and politics because that's an interest of mine. All of those things combined make up your lifestyle, make up the context of your brand. Now, what we see here for Grey Goose is that when we analyze the keywords, you have a predominantly male audience with a certain type of interests. When we analyze the images, you see a much better gender split, 50-50 gender split, and again, a different distribution in the affinities. And so this is valuable data. It's valuable to listen to people in what they say. It's equally valuable, if not more, to see what they show, what they share with their friends, what they reveal of their life, because photos are so revealing no matter what you do. And so we have emerging use cases there. Content creation and campaigning is the obvious one, but what about product development? And what about sort of finding new audiences? And what of sort of having the interaction with those people and seeing if they would perhaps be willing to share their photos with you for your campaigns, to see if they're willing to act as influencers. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, we're sure of it. Whatever we're going to find in the next few years is going to be the iceberg underneath the surface of use cases and of value for our clients and our company. So this is social media analytics, these are image analytics. But aside of that, Crimson Hexagon is also and has always been a pioneer in trend detection. And this goes back to the fact that we offer every single one of our clients unlimited data. So you're never capped to just your brand or your competitors. We're never encouraging anyone to do the navel gazing. It is the human condition. You will always look in the mirror first. But afterwards, you are very much encouraged to look at the lifestyle of your actual consumers, to look at wider trends going on in society and what they could mean for your brand. We have, and actually this number is probably no longer correct, we have 850 billion posts stored in our data storage. We have the largest collection of social media data in the world. We own it, we store it, and then we share it with all of our clients. And so, for example, some of the insights that come from there, this is a UK Trends report we just published, some of the insights that come from there is how people relate to healthy exercise versus healthy eating, how they behave when they order food, whether they cook inside, whether they go to restaurants, how they behave, how they act, how they live their lives essentially, and what they choose to share of it. And whether you are selling restaurant meals, or you're selling clothing, or you're selling a job and a recruitment platform, all of this is essentially relevant if you want to communicate with those people and find out what matters most to them. And of course, I wouldn't be here and none of this would be relevant if we wouldn't be able to do it in Hebrew. So our platform is language agnostic. We ingest Hebrew data also beyond just Twitter. We have many other data sources, and we are able, because of the language agnostic algorithm, to analyze Hebrew data and to make sense of it, to show you exactly the same type of conclusions in your language and in any other language that matters to you. We have Japanese, Russian, Arabic, and Chinese as well, if it's ever relevant. More analyses here is the price of cinema and the complaints people make about that, but also far more boring topics, but again, topics that affect the bottom line, that have actual commercial value, like the attitudes towards insurance of millennials and how they've changed over the past 5 years. This is not a sexy campaign, but it is something that matters, and it is something that massively can inform any campaign about this, any brand strategy about this, and any expansion about this. And lastly, we are very confident at Crimson that our data and the social media world we operate in is not just a gimmick. It used to be the illustration you put inside your slide deck when you were presenting your bottom line results. We have gained so much traction. Our campaign was successful, was not successful. And here are a few tweets to illustrate what I'm talking about in sort of a funny and a lighter way, to give sort of a human face to it all. Those days are gone. The tweets are there. But if you wanted to gain real business intelligence, real insights, and real value from this kind of data, you can. And so, for example, in the case of GoPro here, overlaying the actual stock price of GoPro with the social data is an immensely valuable exercise. We are now developing within our platform the capabilities to pull external data into our platform to do exactly that type of overlaying, to make sure we are at the heart of business intelligence throughout the enterprise. And we are partnering with companies like SIT that have Tableau, that have the knowledge, that work with our APIs, and that support our clients here in Israel in being able to make that possible, in making sure that that social media data is side by side your sales data, your consumer insights, and everything else you really care about as a business. Thank you very much.